So now this one I only have 3 terms, and what you should do technically on all of these is check to see if you could factor something out in the beginning, right? Now what do you guys want to do? You want to factor out or you want to do synthetic division? Raise your hand. Synthetic division, raise your hand. Factor, raise your hand. Go home and take a nap, raise your hand. That's what I thought. All right, we'll do the factor, and if we have time, we'll do synthetic division. So I noticed that every one of these has an x, right? So I'm going to pull an x out. So then I think to myself, well, what? Our goal is still the same, by the way. This is a third degree polynomial, so I want it to be like x plus a, and then x plus b times x plus c, and that'll be equal to 0. And then we find our solutions, right, by saying x plus a equals 0 and solving, and x plus b equals 0 and solving, and so on and so forth, okay? But we could do synthetic division, we could do long division, and we could just factor. So when I factor this out, what do I multiply x by to get x cubed? X squared, right? In other words, if I multiply this times this, I'm going to get this. That's what I'm trying to figure out, okay? So in the next term, what do I multiply x by to get 3x squared? Bless you. Positive 3x. Now always double check. X times x gives me my x squared, and then the plus 3. That's how I get this plus 3x. So I'm thinking when I push this back through, I'm going to get this line above it. What do I multiply x by to get positive 2x? Just 2. Okay? So remember, Mr. Adams said we're going to factor until we get down to a quadratic. Then once we have the quadratic, we could do the guess and check method. So draw your grid. What's the first term in the quadratic? X squared. What's the last term in the quadratic? Plus 2. So what I'm doing is I'm going, okay, what's this and what's this? So again, same thing. I'm going to say to myself, this plus this has to equal this. So when I think of the two numbers that go up here, I got to think to myself, what two numbers do I multiply by to get 2, but when I add them up, it equals a plus 3x. So let's start that process. So x squared is easy. That's just x times x. And then 2 is a prime number. I could really only multiply 2 times 1. Those are the only two numbers I can multiply to get 2. What happens if I say plus 2 plus 1? Well, 2 times x is 2x, right? Positive 2x. 1 times x is a positive 1x. What happens when I add those two terms up? I get 3x, right? So then this becomes x plus 2 times x plus 1. Now this is what we call prime factorization. There's nothing else I can do. I can't factor it anymore. So what's the next step? I'm going to set all the factors equal to 0. So I'm going to say x equals 0, because that's this factor. X plus 2 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. Then I solve. Well, this one's done. But this one I've got to subtract 2 from both sides. And over here I've got to subtract 1. Well, Mr. Adams likes to think that he's good at math, but how can I double check my answer? Any ideas? How can I double check my answer, guys? Graph it. So plug it into the graphing calculator. So go to y equals. I've got 3x, I'm sorry, x to the third power plus 3x squared plus 2x. Graph it. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit because, well, I don't need to. So this is saying that when x equals 0, y should equal 0. So let's see, I hit trace. Yep. X equals 0, y equals 0. So I know that one works, right? Let's try x equals -2. So if I enter in -2 in trace mode, yep, that works. Check that off the list. And then let's try x equals -1. I'm going to enter in -1. Yep, that's a 0 as well. So just by graphing it, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, you guys, so you guys can see it a little better. Okay. Let me take a screenshot of that too. So when you're done with this, if you want, you could just graph it. And that'll verify if you did the math right. So that's the beauty about these graphing calculators. But you have to know how to use them, and you have to practice using them. What's this point here? -2, 0. What's this point here? -1, 0. What's this point here? 0, 0. Those are all the zeros. I'll leave that up there so you guys can finish writing it down. So no